this is how you go through changing the reagent bags in a SAMI 2 instrument. What you'll need is a 5/32 hex nut screwdriver, small wire cutters, and some cable ties slash zip ties for inside the unit. The lower portion of the SAMI is where we have the reagent bags. So the first step that you'll have to do is there are 4 bolts in these openings that you'll have to remove. At this point, you should be able to grasp the unit and gently lift and pull the reagent box off of the unit. What you can do to place it, to work on the unit, is to gently, and make sure you're aware of the bulkheads on the end, turn it over and set it into the reagent box. Now, obviously, it has some give and some play, but this way you can gently balance it and be able to access the reagent bags. This is an example of a CO2 unit. The mesh should be able to pull off. You can gently hold the bags from beneath. It may be tied to the reagent chassis in the middle, in which case you may need to use a zip tie cutter to remove one's connecting it on the inside, perhaps not. Hold these, remove the mesh, set on the side. Right. A CO2 instrument will have 2 bags in it, the larger reagent bag on this side, a blank bag on this side. A pH unit will not have this blank inside, it will only have one over here. What you can do at this point is you can pull these apart. If you would hold, actually this one, please. What you can do is you find the fittings. What you'll want to do is unscrew this point, leaving the white union on the side that faces into the bag. So you'll be able to, if there is any reagent remaining in it, you'll be able to close it up. Remove this. Lift the bag, slide this through, and gently remove it. You take a plug and put this into this union to close it to keep it from leaking, and you can set the bag aside. Same with second bag. If it's a CO2 unit, you can gently remove it, pull this out, place the union on the bag, and put a plug. The replacement process for a pH unit is a little simpler, with involving only the single bag to be put on. It's a little more complex with the CO2 unit, and I recommend having a second person available to help you balance the bags and hold them while you're placing them. So in the case for both a pH and a CO2, you can put the fitting through the opening in the reagent chassis and balance it here. If you would hold this, please. What you'll do is remove the plug, and you want to make sure that you're putting gentle pressure and pulling the union so that it is fully in, so there is a small amount of a reservoir in the plug, and put some gentle pressure on the bag to fill this. This will make it much less likely you'll draw air bubbles into the unit. Then you can take the other, match it, and screw it into place. The color coding for the units is we call red or brownish color fitting. Red is for the reagent. If it's a CO2, the blue is for the blank bags. So you always want to hook the reagent up to the red fitting in the case of a CO2, and the blank to the blue. In a pH unit, excuse me, you won't have this, and it will only be this fitting. So that's placed there. You can take the other one, if you would just balance that, please. You can slide this one through and set it down. What you want to do is to move it through so that gently the two fittings on the bags are close but not actually touching, and then place them together. Hold that. And on the blank bag, remove the plug. A gentle amount of pressure till you see some water coming out, then close firmly. This you'll then want to tuck up so that it is out of the way. Next, the reagent mesh should still be relatively stretched out from the previous bags, so it should be a simple matter of being able to put it over the top of the other two, and while the other individual holds them in place, to gently work them down over the other bags. The next step will be when we put the lid back on. You'll want to be careful to make sure that you don't catch or crimp any of the wiring when you put the lid back on. So if you would hold this. Actually, in this, we can go ahead and set it down. If you have an individual hold the SAMI in place to make sure it doesn't roll, this greatly facilitates the process of putting the lid back on. Gently work it over. You have to lift this end slightly, gently work this over, get close, and make sure that you're carefully tucking the fittings inside, as you can see, so that the wires, the tubing is not in the way. Same on the other side. Roll it this way. You can take it at this point and gently tuck it up inside. There we go. And now it's a matter of simply replacing the bolts in the bolts. The plastic of these SAMIs is relatively soft, so you do not want to use the screws to close the union. You want to put a gentle bit of pressure on it to close it, and then simply go to light resistance on the screw while closing.